March 5th, 2025. A U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone lifted off from its hardened airbase in Djibouti and quietly ascended into the vast skies over East Africa. This wasn't anything new. The MQ-9 had flown this exact route dozens of times, conducting routine surveillance over the Red Sea in Yemen. But today would be anything but routine. Several hours into its 27-hour mission, while flying well within international airspace, something changed. The drone's sensors picked up movement. A sudden, sharp ping, then another, and another. Multiple missiles, launched from Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen, were now heading straight for it. The Reaper's onboard defense systems kicked in immediately, deploying dozens of flares and evasive countermeasures. For a moment, it seemed like it might make it out, but one missile, just one, was enough. A direct hit. Another loss. Another message from the Houthis, loud and clear. This wasn't their first kill. In fact, it was their 12th since 2023. Since 2023, the Houthis had carried out 174 separate attacks on U.S. Navy vessels and 145 strikes on commercial shipping. So the United States decided enough was enough, and Donald Trump gave the green light for something massive. A bold response, a statement, a full-force military operation designed to erase the Houthis war machine off the face of the earth. The first wave began under the cover of darkness. At exactly 1 a.m. local time on Saturday, March 15th, sailors aboard 2 U.S. Navy destroyers floating silently in the Red Sea got the command they'd been waiting for: fire. Within minutes, the launch crews on board were alive with activity. The plan had already been rehearsed, the coordinates locked in, the waypoints pre-programmed. At precisely 1:15 a.m., the first Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from their vertical launch systems, roaring into the night at 515 miles per hour. The sailors couldn't see the endgame, but they didn't need to. Their targets had been selected by intelligence teams weeks ago, but the attack wasn't limited to just the capital. In the Sana'a suburb of Mu, 4 command centers were simultaneously struck in the Gulf neighborhood. Communications between Houthi leadership and field units were severed in an instant. Then, less than an hour later, the second wave hit. FA-18. Super Hornets launched from the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier, cutting through the night sky like steel arrows. Their mission: plunge Houthi-controlled territory into darkness. The jets were armed with AGM-154 joint standoff weapons, each carrying a 500-pound warhead with a special surprise, Blue 111 penetrator nose plugs. These aren't your average bombs. They're designed to tunnel through 20 feet of reinforced concrete or 100 feet of earth before detonating, making them perfect for hitting underground bunkers and fortified depots. Their first target was the power station at Damar, an essential hub supplying electricity to wide swaths of Houthi territory. When it went dark, so did the rest of the grid. A pair of B-1B Lancers, deployed from Incirlik Air Base in Turkey as part of Task Force 242, had taken off earlier in the night. With a cruising speed of 647 miles per hour and a range of thousands of miles, they made the trip in under 3 hours. They arrived just after the F-18s had knocked out the power. Perfect timing. Each bomber unleashed a full salvo of 24 AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles from high altitude, never even coming close to enemy air defenses. These extended-range variants can travel over 1,000 kilometers, loiter in midair, and strike with surgical precision. At exactly 3 a.m., the JASSMs hit UAV production and storage facilities in Aljazeera Governorate. 8 major sites were turned to dust, decimating the Houthis drone manufacturing capabilities in a matter of minutes. But the U.S. Air Force wasn't done flexing. But next came the most precise hunters of all, the EA-18G Growlers. These specialized electronic warfare jets, cousins of the FA-18, weren't dropping bombs. They were hunting radars. Their tool of choice, the AGM-88 HARM missile, designed specifically to home in on electromagnetic radiation from enemy radar installations. With Houthi gunners desperately scanning the sky, they inadvertently made themselves targets. The Growlers locked on, fired from 70 nautical miles out, and watched their missiles scream toward the enemy's eyes and ears. Within minutes, Houthi air defenses across the region had been neutralized. Just when the Houthis might have thought it was over, the Navy launched another wave. From beneath the surface of the Red Sea, a Los Angeles-class attack submarine, an apex predator of the deep, joined the fight. Though typically used for anti-ship warfare, this sub had another trick: launching Tomahawks from torpedo tubes. At 6:40 a.m., it unleashed over a dozen of them. By 7:10, 4 more Houthi command posts in Damar Governorate had been reduced to rubble. Then came the wild card. At 9:15 a.m., a lone P-8A Poseidon, a plane usually reserved for submarine hunting, was flying over the Red Sea. But today it was carrying something else. The AGM-84 SLAMER, a high-speed, long-range missile capable of striking ground targets. 15 minutes after launch, radar sites in Hijaz Governorate lit up the sky, then vanished. At this point, Houthi radar coverage was gone. Air defenses, gone. Power, cut. Communications, crippled. What remained was a battlefield stripped bare. Enter the B-52 Stratofortresses. 6 of these legendary bombers had been quietly deployed to Qatar in November, their first Middle East rotation since 2019, each capable of carrying 35 2,000-pound JDAMs. That's 70,000 pounds of devastation per aircraft. At noon local time, the B-52s soared across Yemen, their bomb bay doors wide open. They dropped their payloads onto barracks and weapons depots the Navy hadn't gotten to in the early morning strikes. Thanks to the earlier softening, this final attack was basically a milk run. By the time the last B-52s turned for home, more than 40 high-priority targets had been obliterated, and not a single American aircraft, ship, or crew member was lost. Radar alarms blared. The USS Stout and Jason Dunham picked up multiple incoming contacts. The Houthis weren't done. Not yet. The war had only just begun.